In 2016, I decided to stay in the most haunted motel in America, and I regret it. The place was a nightmare, and there were strange things happening all around me. But this place was different from other haunted places I'd visited before. This is one of the scariest places I've ever traveled, and I can't believe I spent the night there alone. The motel is called the Sandhills Curio, and it's located in Lexington, Missouri. The motel was built in 1964, and has since become known as the most haunted motel in the United States. When I went there, it had been turned into a roadside curiosity, and ghost hunters could rent rooms to try, make contact with spirits that lived at the motel. I'll admit that I love paranormal stuff, even have my own ghost hunting equipment, but I didn't expect what I saw and experienced at this motel. The motel has a really interesting history that probably explains why it's considered the most haunted motel in the U.S. The motel was once frequented by truckers who would travel up and down America's Route 66, back in the day. Truck drivers would often travel long distances without sleeping. Truckers also had a reputation for being heavy drinkers, which meant that Sandhills Curiosity became popular among those looking for a good time. Now, people don't really drink like they used to, but back then it was pretty common for truck drivers to get drunk at the motel and do really stupid things. Some even engaged in fistfights with each other while staying at the motel. On one occasion, a trucker brought a woman back to his room and killed her. Another time, a man was found dead in his room after drinking himself to death. There were also rumors that a young girl had been murdered at the motel, though no record of such an incident could ever be found. And it's not just the dark history of the building itself that makes it so creepy. There are also countless stories about ghosts seen roaming around the property. Many of these sightings have come from guests who swear they've seen the ghosts of former truck drivers walking through the halls of the motel. And many people have said they've felt a sudden drop in temperature when they've entered certain parts of the building. For these reasons, I wanted to see the motel for myself. My friends thought it was a crazy idea, but they let me go by myself. I figured that if there were ghosts there, they might want to talk to someone who was willing to listen. So I packed my bags, grabbed my ghost hunting equipment, and drove to the motel. I was excited to see what awaited me, but I had no idea how truly terrifying the experience would be. The minute I arrived at the Sandhills Curiosity, I felt like I was being watched. The parking lot was empty, which made sense since the motel doesn't actually advertise itself as a haunted place. That's why I was the only person there. I walked up to the front desk to check in, but nobody was there. I called out, "Hello," but nobody answered. I looked around for a place where I could put my things, but everything was locked up tight. I eventually found an open window and crawled through it. I don't recommend doing this, but I needed to get inside, and I couldn't wait any longer. Once I got inside, I realized that this place really is cursed. Things were dirty, broken, ripped apart, and trashed. In the lobby, I found a dusty box filled with old VHS tapes and began watching some of them. They contained footage of people who'd stayed at the motel in the past. He then explained that he'd seen the ghost of a woman standing over his bed and that she'd reached out and touched him. He also said that he'd heard whispers and voices coming from the walls, and that he'd seen shadows moving through the halls. Another video featured a young couple who claimed to have witnessed a ghostly apparition while staying in the motel. They said that they'd seen the ghost of a man walking down the hallway, but when they tried to follow him, he vanished. They also said that they'd heard unexplained noises during their stay, and that they felt an eerie presence watching them at all times. These videos gave me goosebumps and made me wonder if I should have stayed at the motel or not. But I had already checked in and I didn't want to run away now. After watching the rest of the tapes, I decided to head to my room. I walked down a long, dark hallway and turned on my flashlight. The room number was 23, and as I approached it, I could feel my heart beating faster and faster. As I opened the door, I was greeted by a musty smell and a dark, dank room. The bathroom was covered in mold and mildew, and the bathtub was filled with water. The towels hung limply on the rack, as if they hadn't been used in years. On the nightstand next to the bed, I saw a lamp with a frayed cord and a dusty photo frame. As I approached the bed, I could have sworn I heard a voice whispering my name. Then something strange happened. One of the curtains in the corner of the room suddenly moved. I froze in my tracks and stared at the curtain in disbelief. Moved again, and I could have sworn I saw a shadowy figure standing behind it. I quickly backed away from the curtain and turned on all the lights in the room. But when I returned to the curtain, the shadowy figure was gone. I stood in the middle of the room, unsure of what to do next. I knew that I should leave, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. That's when I noticed a small table in the corner of the room with a single candle on it. As I sat down on the edge of the bed, I felt a sudden chill and heard a noise that sounded like footsteps. I jumped up and started to investigate, but I couldn't find anything. I went back to the bed and sat down again, trying to calm myself down. But then the footsteps started again. They were slow and deliberate, and it was clear that somebody or something was walking directly outside my door. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I turned the doorknob and pushed the door open, but there was nothing there. I went back to my room and shut the door, locking it behind me. I was shaking with fear, but I knew that I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there and wait for whatever was outside the door to come in and attack me. So I called out, "Hello, is anyone out there?" But there was no answer. But I knew deep down that there was something else at work here. That's when I remembered the ghost hunting equipment that I'd brought with me. I turned on my EMF reader and waited. The meter began to rise steadily, and soon it was flashing red. I moved the device around the room, and the reading remained the same. It was clear that there was some kind of energy in the room with me. I'll never forget what happened next. I was sitting on the bed trying to figure out what to do when I saw the shadowy figure again. It was standing at the end of the bed looking directly at me. I screamed and fell backwards off the bed. The figure approached me slowly and reached out a hand as if trying to grab me. I don't know how long I sat there frozen in fear, but eventually the figure vanished. I knew that I had to get out of there. I ran to the door and flung it open, stumbling out into the hallway. I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of my car. I got in the driver's seat and slammed the door shut. Then I sped away from the motel as fast as I could. I've never been back to the Sandhills Curiosity, and I do plan on going back anytime soon. I'm still shaken by what I experienced there, and I can't help but wonder if I'll ever see that shadowy figure again. If you're ever near Lexington, Missouri, I suggest you stay away from this motel. It's not worth risking your sanity to find out if the ghosts are real. Now watch. Spend a night in a cemetery or check out. I camped out in a haunted forest all alone.